Well, it's great to be here today. I'm Blair Richardson. I'm currently living in Denver, but I still have a cherry farm in California that I tend to, when I'm talking to friends or people that I meet, I say, yeah, I'm still a farmer. It gives me that right, even though I don't get to see it more than about 3 or 4 times a year. But the great thing is, coming here, as opposed to going to California to see how the pruning and shaping of the trees after harvest are going this year, my wife went and did that, and it was 107 degrees there today, so had a much better deal here, so I'm much happier to be here. Okay, so what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about the Uber-ization of the food industry. Has anyone in here not heard of the transportation company called Uber? Everyone's heard of it? Anyone hasn't? You can raise your hand. It's okay if you do. Uber started a couple of years ago. It's an amazing story. It's a technology system targeting the sharing economy. Kids today or millennials or Gen Y, they'd much rather share something than buy it, especially if it's expensive. A car, a house, many other things. They're sharing items in the industry. It started in 2009. These 2 guys in San Francisco said, hey, listen, I don't really want to build anything. I don't want to grow anything. I don't want to make anything. I don't want to have any employees. I just want to make a lot of money. So we're going to take something else that someone else has already done and created and has created an inefficient, unhappy solution in the world and make it better. And we're going to charge someone to do that. And it's amazing what they did. They're now in 58 countries, only about 4.5, 5 years later, 58 countries, 300 cities, and they have raised $2.8 billion and are currently projected to be worth about $10 billion as a company. Unbelievable. Unbelievable story. Massive disruptor in the taxi cab industry. People around some countries won't even let them into their country yet, and they're trying to block them from allowing drivers to participate in this. They're hated by many, but they're going to win because they're loved by a whole lot more. They're loved by this whole new generation and adapters, even in Generation X and even in the baby boomers who are adapting technology into their lives. And the great thing is they don't have any equipment costs. They don't have anything they have to worry about breaking down because it's all privately owned. They have no maintenance, no employees, mostly, although there's a few employees in San Francisco and around the countries that kind of promote for them. But all the drivers are their own private contractors, and they excel at providing simplicity and information, knowledge to their customers. Okay, so why did I start with a transportation story when we're talking about food? Well, it's not just about taxis. This is not limited to one thing. This is about people and technology converging at a particular point in time in our history of the human society that makes this kind of concept work. And it will work in many different things, and we're starting to see it switch out. And the reason people and technology have to converge at the right time is really important, because you couldn't do one without the other. And so we're going to talk about the people first and why the people today, these generations, make this work. So millennials and beyond, and I'm not just focusing on the millennials. A lot of people like to focus on that market or that demographic, but this is beyond that. It's Generation Z, the kids coming up behind the millennials that are still in school today. It's the millennials. It's part of Generation X. It's even part of baby boomers, maybe even a few people out of the silent generation, but not very many. But in this group, 80% want to know more about how their food is grown. They want not only their food, but all their products. They want to know everything about it. They're used to actually pulling up their iPhone or their Samsung or whatever smartphone they have, or their tablet, and looking up for information and saying, okay, I want to know everything about this. I want transparency. I want to know where my food's grown. Ideally, I want to know who's growing my food, how they're getting it to me, and what they did with the food before they shipped it out. 83% of the people in this group also believe that large companies control too much. They don't like the concept of big, giant corporate farms, big, giant corporate anything. Interestingly though, unlike their parents, they're kind of okay with it even though they don't like it, as long as there's a social aspect to your business. And what I mean by a social aspect, it means that you're letting them know what you stand for besides making a dollar or making whatever amount of money you're making in profits off of their purchase. They're okay about buying peaches and plums and nectarines or tomatoes or strawberries or whatever it is, as long as they know that your company stands for something more than just taking that money and buying a bigger home or buying more land or something like that. If they know that you're actually taking part of your profits and putting it back into a social cause, it makes it okay. They want big companies to fix a lot of the world's problems because they do not trust the government to fix it. Governments have gotten us into the messes that we're in today, and they want to figure out how to get out of it without using government to do that. So it's a really interesting thing, and I just heard this term, I stole this term, commerce lubricated by conscience. I heard it about 2 weeks ago at a conference in Chicago, and I thought, wow, that is exactly what we're seeing today. We're okay, we're willing to spend our money and buy things from you as long as we feel good about it because you're doing good things from a societal perspective. 68%, now this is another really important part, and this is why Uber works the way it does and why it will get past some of the lawsuits around the world that it's facing. 68% of this group ask friends before they go to a restaurant. Before they go to a new restaurant, they're going to ask their friends what they think about it. And it's not just limited to restaurants, it's limited to anything that's new to them. They go out and they ask their networks. They don't go to Consumer Reports or other old traditional ways of looking at information. They want to know what their friends, what their networks, what their social networks think about what they are actually going to buy or service they're going to purchase. Another important thing, 41% don't own a landline. Anyone in here not own a landline today? You can raise your hand. Yep, 1, 2, few, maybe 5 or 6%. I don't own a landline. I haven't owned a landline since 2010. Now, it doesn't happen to be because I buy into this. It happens to be because I was deep ripping my orchard, getting ready to put cherries in, and ripped right through the phone and was too cheap to put a new line in. But point is, I learned that I could live without a landline telephone in 2005 and haven't needed one since. This generation, the only reason the ones that do have landlines have them is probably because their parents put them in or something like that, and they'll get rid of them very quickly. The biggest part about this, and if you don't think that this generation and this group is going to be important, especially the millennials, is they will be 75% of the world workforce by 2025. I'm not talking about just U.S. I'm talking about the world. This is who is going to be driving our economy. So what they think, what they believe is going to be driving and affecting all of our lives. They're socially dependent. They depend on their network. They depend on their systems. So from a company trying to sell something to them, what's important here? Well, transparency is absolutely 100% critical. And if you don't think it's critical today, you just wait till tomorrow. They want to know everything about your business. If they want to know which chemicals you're spraying on your crops, they will figure out a way to get it, or they'll buy it from someone who will tell them. This is going to be really, really important in the next decade to this group. They actually demand high service, high speed, and honesty. And if you fail on any of those three things, they will move and they will go someone else quickly, and they will talk about it to all of their friends in their networks. So as soon as you hurt one of them, you hurt all of them. Skeptical but faithful. They will buy into it. They're going to be skeptical of what you tell them, if you're marketing to them, if you're telling them your story, and they'll try to verify it. They'll look it up, and the internet allows them to do that, and their friends allow them to do that. But once you develop that trust, they are very faithful, and they will stick with you, and they will defend you to anyone who comes against you. They're adventurous, and they value experiences over things. I mean, it's really interesting, in a case study we were looking at in terms of some marketing potential, one of the things that came out is that one of the participants said they would rather go to a crystal company and talk to the person making a crystal vase and understanding about it and kind of experiencing the process, watching them make it, than actually owning the crystal vase. Now, for my generation, we wanted to own everything. Actually, we wanted to own 2 or 3 of everything. This generation doesn't care about owning it. They want to experience it and then move on and pay to experience something else. It's really a different change in perspectives. So now, how does the technology start playing into this? Well, to get into where technology really exists, you have to kind of go back a few years and go back to when radio, the big giant radio in the living room was there, and the family gathered around it, and it was a central in-home connection, a little bit of entertainment, a little bit of news, and marketing kind of started to come into it, and people started using that to fund operas, and they became soap operas because some of the soap companies actually funded them. And so they would talk about how their soap was good or how whatever the product was they were trying to sell was good. And you captured this audience, but you broadcast it out to everyone in the world who happened to have a radio. It wasn't just to who you were trying to get it to. So it was all the way around. Now, really, when television came, it was pretty much the same thing. It was a little bit different, a little glossier. You got video now instead of just voice. But really, it was the same thing. It wasn't really until the internet hit that you were able to start doing some more targeted, more focused marketing approaches. This allowed people to kind of get in there and use email, banner ads, collect lists of people that you're going to resend your information to. Maybe they showed some interest in your product or your service, and you could kind of push that a little further. But really what changed the world was in 2008, Steve Jobs stood up and he says, I have something that's better. is everyone in here is looking at me right now has something that's not as good as what I have in my hand. And he was right. He was absolutely right. I don't think he even knew. I mean, maybe he did. He's a brilliant man. I don't think he knew how right he was. But the device itself now was personal. It's mine. I get to do with it as I please. I don't have to sit around a room with my friends and family and listen to what they want to listen to or look at what they want to listen to. I'm connected 100% all the time. I can find out whatever I want to find out about, whatever it is that's interesting to me, anytime I want to, anywhere I go almost. I mean, you almost have to get out in the middle of nowhere to actually get away from it anymore. And people, they take vacations specifically to get away from the technology today. So he really changed this. So from a societal impact, it was a true shift in who controlled and who generated information, and who controlled and who generated the kind of the upswell of marketing concepts and advertising and all those fun things. From an individual perspective, there's apps for everything. Social media is engaging. It gets you. It's not just a read an article or look at an ad in a newspaper or watch TV. It's actually engaging and providing feedback back from the individual. It provides more control, and very importantly, it's lifestyle sharing. And it's amazing what these next generations are willing to share on the internet about their lives. It's stuff that you and I would probably never even dream of sharing, but they're willing to share almost anything in their lives. Reviews, selfies, Vines. If you haven't had Vines, a Vine is a 6-second video that they put up. And it's super short, just like an old-time text message. I don't know where that's going, but I know it's going to be big. It's already all out there, and people are trying to figure out how to use it in terms of marketing. So this was a big change. So everything's new now. So now you're looking at marketing, and you're looking at technology and people coming together, and it creates engagement. And engagement allows this social network to blossom. So for the first time in the history of technology and people, all of this converges at the same time, and we're now able to target the individual and work with that individual. And if you really want to look into some really cool stuff in marketing, which is really fun, you start talking about GPS-focused ads. This is essentially where when you're driving down the street and you happen to be coming up to a grocery store, and that grocery store has bought your information or you have signed up for their information, and they know that the last 3 times you were at the grocery store, you bought fresh fruit, and and over the last year you kind of tend to buying a little more unique, odd, stranger fruit, things that have been imported, and they have a new fruit that's out there that's never been seen before. They can target you because you're driving by and say, hey, listen, there is something you're going to like in our store today, and we're going to give you an incentive to come in and stop and buy it. If you're walking into an airport, you fly into any airport in the country, you can be targeted now with ads specific to that region, specific to that airport. If there's a restaurant in that airport, they can actually send you a coupon as you're walking into the airport and tell them that if you want 10% off of your beer from this country and this airport, that come on in and sit down. These are things that exist today. It's amazing where it's going. I mean, I don't even know how to get my head around it yet, other than this is going to be the most interesting and intriguing part of marketing we've ever seen. So bring all that together and we get to food today. And how does this affect us in our food world? Well, we've already seen delivery services across the world. Google's involved in it. Amazon is very involved in delivering food, fresh fruits and vegetables, processed, you name it. Of course, Walmart is now getting more and more involved. I moved to Denver 2 years ago when we moved from California, so I could get involved with the potato board. And there's not a week that goes by that I don't see at least one food truck delivering groceries around our neighborhood. It's just really amazing how fast this is really starting. They're starting to figure it out and starting to get it understood. So if that's too difficult, you say, yeah, listen, that's great, I can buy food, but I'd rather take a little bit of that step out of there. I don't really want to decide what food I'm going to buy. I would rather you tell me what food I'm going to buy, and based on some preferences that I've given you, things I like and don't like. These are some companies that are doing that. They're actually send you to your doorstep on a weekly basis for about $10 to $12 US dollars per person, a complete meal ready to cook, and very gourmet type recipes and step-by-step instructions, everything you have to do, and everything in a box ready to go so you can cook a great meal right there at home and look really awesome to your spouse. Amazing programs here and very cheap. If that's still too difficult, well, now they're actually taking this way beyond pizza delivery. It's like pizza delivery on steroids. If a steakhouse is down the road by 1 mile, but you're too lazy to get up and drive down there, or better even yet, walk 1 mile to the steakhouse, you can go online, order your steak medium well, whatever you want, medium rare, and have it delivered to your house in 15 minutes or 20 minutes, whatever it is, ready to go. So now you don't even have to cook it. You just have to look it up on your phone and order it. But wait, I'm not at home. Well, we got that fixed too. Now food trucks in the United States and many areas around the world are becoming mainstream and actually not your taco truck, your traditional taco truck of Southern California. It's more of a gourmet, high-end food items that are going to where the people are, whether it's an event, an activity, or a region in the city that they're serving from. They're coming to where the people are and providing them high-quality, fast, quick food. I mean, fast food in the United States is dying for a reason. It isn't because fast food is so bad or anything. It's just it's not fast enough. People want food where they are, not where you are. And these food trucks are figuring out how to do it. It's a massive, one of the most rapid growth sectors of the food service industry in the United States today. Okay, so those food trucks aren't good enough. Well, heck, we're going to bring a food truck with a restaurant on top to you and let you sit down and have a nice yogurt while you're waiting. There's always next, there's always better. It's where does it go next? I mean, I love this particular one. I think I would have never even thought about this. I wouldn't think that someone would actually want to go to a food truck, order a yogurt, and then go and sit on top of the food truck and have the yogurt. Evidently, it works. It's a very popular truck. So looking into the future, the prize, what's going to happen? Where does this all lead? Well, it's never going to stop, but you can kind of put this into projection on where we're going. I mean, we got to get really smart in the food industry of how do we work with these customers, how we provide them what they want. This is a picture of a farmer's market. Certainly a great effort on trying to bring the consumer closer to the farmer. But again, you're forcing the consumer to go to where they are. I mean, how much cooler would it be if you go and you pick your carrots out of your field and the carrots get delivered straight to that consumer? And there are farms doing that right now in the United States. I'm sure there's probably some farms doing them around some of the larger metropolitan areas in Australia and other areas. They're actually figuring out how to effectively and efficiently get products custom harvested, ready to go direct to the consumer in their markets. And they're figuring out ways to do it. And I don't think any of them are super efficient yet, but they're going to figure out how to do it. Okay, so that's a little too micro for you. I mean, think about this. How would you like to have the Uber transportation system? If I was 22 years old right now and I was in the transportation industry, this is what I'd be working on. I would try to figure out how to create an app like Uber for freight. How cool would it be? And I used to run a packing shed, and that was one of the biggest headaches I ever had, was trying to deal with truckers that didn't show up on time, service providers that weren't doing what they were telling us to do, problems along the way, coming in a day late or too late. How would you like to be able to go onto your phone and say, okay, I know this trucker, his name's Bob, he actually came and picked up a load from me last week. Look at all of his ratings. I see he's being rated really high from all the people around me, all my friends. Oh, but he got a ticket last week and he was 3 days late. Maybe he's got a problem. I'll switch over to Frank today. And Frank just happens to be 17 minutes away, and I can see that his end destination is about 20 miles off of where this load needs to go, and he actually has 3/4 of a truck empty right now. And he says he's available. Now, how cool would that be to be able to look at that and control your problems in the freight industry and have them bid on it or tell you or give you competitive bids? You don't need 3 different intermediaries between you and that trucker anymore. Great, huge opportunities in this sector, I believe. I really, really believe this is going to happen. And I don't believe it's going to happen because it's just in my mind. Things are already happening. This race is way past the starting line today. We're seeing companies like Uber starting to reach into this industry. I believe personally that Uber is going to be into this segment. They're already doing some trial markets on actually providing products that a consumer can order on their phone. You can go online, you look at the different things that they have. You can say, I need toothpaste, I need milk, I need apples, and I need it delivered to this address. How long is it going to take? And all of a sudden that order goes out, and they are able to get a driver who may have just dropped off Bob at the airport, but now is free, and instead of sitting there waiting for another taxi ride or an Uber fare, he will now go and pick up your produce order and bring it to your house. This is where things are going. It's all about you, the individual. It's about me. What about what I want, when I want it, and from whom I want it. And that's what this next generation is going to drive us to do. Huge opportunities, a lot of fun. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. I'll be around for this weekend. Look forward to if you have any other thoughts or questions, be happy to answer them along the way. Thanks.